I apologize for the interruption here. This is part 2 of this video. So we're looking at the utility stats again of the Vorta Vor. And just a side-by-side comparison, we can see it's going almost as high strength-wise as your Cavort. Not necessarily important to a miner. Warp range, again, is further. Now it gets to 95. That is not enough to reach the second grouping of clusters, which I showed you, which is 120. But that's still enough to get to the first clusters. So that's something you can do with this and not have to move your base around. And now we're looking at the cargo capacity. Specifically, we're up to about 1.7. So we're still not on par with a maxed out 3-star faction ship at this point. But we're getting better. You can see viable usage. Now I'm able to pump the protected cargo up over 138k. And I can take this ship out farther. And I can mine in a system that I wouldn't be able to reach otherwise. So I'm going to go ahead and just take this one out into... We'll go ahead and do a gas system and just find out if we can get some gas. And this is something I don't need a discovery or to move my base or anything to get to. So that's really the chief advantage of this particular type of faction ship, is I can send it out to those types of systems. So all in all, you can see these things are pretty cost prohibitive. If you want to get it, you can, but it's going to cost you to put it on par with a really high tier faction ship. That's something you would need to know going into this decision. You'll be able to have that higher warp range and get you out farther, but you can accomplish the very same thing by warping in a high warp range discovery, which I can actually get all the way out to this second grouping of systems with. Or I can move my base to any of the planets of these clusters. So I can just take my discovery out there, warp it in to the system, and I could just go ahead and relocate my base out here if I wanted to. And then I can fly pretty much any ship out to the mines in the nearby system, which actually has bigger mines. So I could make a lot more use of that 176k protected cargo on my Cavort rather than using my 130-some k on my Vorta Vor at tier 3, bare minimum. And I could mine on these mines, which grow up to about 400k at their full size. You can see they get a lot bigger out here. So again, 4-star ships, completely up to you decision. But my recommendation, if you're on a cost budget, I wouldn't spend a lot of time on these until you really know they're worth it. Because the one thing that I'm not going to show you today, because my reserves are already so low, is the repair cost. That could actually put me in an extremis scenario. I don't want to do that. I just want to give you an idea what to expect when you get these ships. I would not spend a lot of time on these particular ships unless you really want to take it up there and out there further. It can do that for you, and it can mine in areas that some of your lower 4-star ships cannot. But with the Discovery and with your other ships that can reach these systems, you really may not need to. Not a bad ship overall. I'm sure it looks great in the higher tier. This thing's going to tier all the way out to 12, and it'll probably reach the furthest systems you can get to. But that being said, the costs are very high to maintain. The cost to upgrade are very high. You'll sink a lot of resources into these ships and not get a lot of return on investment. Because like we saw here, the cargo capacity at tier 3 really isn't anything to write home about. And if this thing gets destroyed on accident, it's going to cost multiple times what the Cavort is to repair. So it's not necessarily a great raider either at this stage in the game. Maybe it'll get there eventually, but that's just things to keep in mind as you're building and crewing these ships. It really doesn't get you a lot out the gate. You're going to have to spend a lot of resources upgrading it. I would not invest your resources at the early stages unless you really have, unless it really is your only option to get out to some of these systems. And most people with a Franklin A, my Franklin A has a longer warp range than this does. My Discovery does. And obviously your 4-star faction ships do. So I would say skip it for now. Unless you just have a ton of resources you just want to pour into it and you got nothing else. Focus on the 4-star warships. Those are going to be a better long-term investment for you. They're going to get you through bigger armadas, and they're going to get you better rewards and get your Franklin A and things like that. I would say skip these units. They look fancy, they're big, they're bulky, and all of that. But in the grand scheme of things, do they really get you anything your 4-star or your 3-star faction ships can't get? I would say for the most part, not. So I just want to give you guys my initial impressions on these ships. Nothing to write home about, and a lot of resources to be sunk in. So just keep those in mind. If you have any questions, please reach out in-game chat or Discord. But this is Captain Ando. Live long and prosper. Signing out.